All right, I'm going to plug this in with this thickest of cables, 14 gauge. Holy moly. Back in the day. Okay. Since I don't have my handles in because I'm cleaning them, I will pop the fence guard. That is tight. So hopefully we should see and hear something. 3, 2, 1. Oh, that's not good. That's not good. We're going to call that a fail. Okay, back for more. A few moments later. So, well, I haven't published any of these videos, but in a previous video, I talked about this coupling nut or whatever this electronic thing is called. And I can tell right now I'm going to have to change my stabilization or this wide effect because the camera reset itself and I can't remember what that setting was. So let me look for that. And we are back. All right, I had to turn off de-warping because I could tell the screen was just elongated. Where was I? So in one of the videos I talk about the fact that this wire coupling contraption, not sure what it's called, was just hanging in the box, and my two grounds from the power switch and the motor were just hanging there. So I put this one on, and I thought that was good. So apparently not, because when I started to troubleshoot and isolated it by plugging the motor directly into power, motor spun up right away. So then I knew I had a power problem with the power switch. So let's try this again. And 3, 2, 1. Belt looks good. Sounds good. Blade looks true. We'll worry about that fact later on. But that's a beautiful sound. Good stuff. That sounded great. All right, that's it for tonight. Good evening, YouTubers. Reloading Bench back with you once again. And this series or segments of videos, which will turn into probably a multi-series about my old Craftsman saw restoration, is just about at an end. So I'll stitch these in at some point. I'll call these upgrades. So I was at the big box shop today, and I picked up some 1/2 inch by 3.5 inch by I think 3 feet oak, some red oak hobby board, thousands of dollars of wood, and I'm going to use this to put on each side of my fence, which you will see on the table saw as it is nearing completion. And then I picked up a few what I'm going to call upgrades. I'm spilling powder all over the place. I'll call these some upgrades, some old grades and some upgrades. So this I decided to pick up. Never had one before. This is an angle gauge, and I thought it was kind of nifty. Again, because I had so many problems building the ransom rest base, which is the cause of this little entry into oh, my bench is at a 90-degree angle. So I thought that was kind of cool. Let's get up to 90. So I'm going to use this for ensuring that obviously I have a blade when it when my blade needs to be at 90 degrees, so I get a straight cut, which I was not getting from my current Craftsman saw. So, and it's obviously it has a magnet, so I kind of like this, and that was one upgrade that I felt was worthy of pursuing. And then, because of the saw blade that's in the saw, rather, I thought, well, let me pick up some new blades, and I haven't bought a saw blade, a 10-inch saw blade, in years. And then I went over to Lowe's, which carries Craftsman, because I thought, oh, let me stay with the same name. And they have what I would call the current version of this combo kit, which is the red paint. So it's an updated version in terms of logoing and branding. But at the end of the day, it's still Craftsman, and it's a two blade kit. One end is a 40 tooth, and the other is a 28 tooth general purpose, so smooth cut and general purpose. And then I thought, oh, because I did the room remodel a couple years ago, and it was nice to have a much higher tooth count. This is 104 for much finer cuts. And what was funny was when I was looking at the prices at Lowe's, I can get these online, the older version, which I would actually prefer because of the saw being, almost 50 years old. I don't know what year these were produced in. 507, so I don't know if that's May of 07. And this is 4 of 05, so April of 05. So, 14, 17 years ago. And I'll put probably the 40 tooth, actually no, I'll probably put the general tooth, the 28 tooth in there now. But then I thought, how am I going to hold all these blades? Because for my current saw, I just have them floating around the workbench area. So I thought I'd get a little cuter and step up my game with a staple that is apparently kicking my behind. Staple and plastic. You just gotta love it. Jeez. Staple and plastic. That was challenging. So I picked this off from the Rainforest folks. All that work, and there's no opening, so I don't know why they stapled it. And it looks like that is it. And this doesn't even have a brand or. Okay, here's the brand. Bighorn table saw blade holder. So the idea is, and I'm not going to do this on screen because I'll probably cut my hands are already cut up and raw from working. This one's not healing so well. Cut up from working on the sharp edges of the saw and doing the restoration on the table and every other component. Restoration, probably not the best word. Cleaning and conditioning is more accurate because everything worked on the saw. In fact, it was in great condition, just old and dirty. And now it's clean and looking better, newer, younger. So I will put these in here and call that a day in terms of the saw upgrades. And when I do the fence, I'll probably take a final video of that. But I need to do a what I'll call the after video. I really didn't do a before video on the saw. So what I'll probably do is show some pictures as I talk to what the saw looked like and what drew my attention to it. So that's it for now. All right, as this currently sits, I've arranged it as close to the original pictures and configuration of when I first saw it online and when I went and saw it in person. So I will do a walk around with a little bit of a close-up and maybe more of attention to detail on what was done to the, I won't call it a restoration, I'm going to call it a cleaning. So I'll probably flash, as I'm talking right now, the before pictures, some of the after pictures, and then I'll walk around the saw for two things. I'll do as this sits, and then I'll put things into the configuration that I want for my usage. Obviously, the old casters and wheels are not being used in place of a Wen solution, which I've covered before. All the nuts and bolts were removed and de-rusted. I didn't really pay focus or attention to the stand itself. I could refinish that at a later point. As you can see from the finish on the front panel, the trim, the almost 50-year-old film was removed and a little bit of polish applied. All in all, pretty decent. Again, everything taken off, either cleaned or sandblasted. Again, taken off, cleaned, polished, removed, polished, removed. You saw the individuals. Again, this is a hefty fence. Love this fence. And that is going to get the boards that I showed, the oak hobby boards that I showed. This was taken off, cleaned. I wouldn't say polished, Dolot, steel wool. These were all taken off, as you saw before, polished with steel wool. This was re-blued. This was all reworked, as you could see. Again, no more dirt. Same thing with this, taken apart. I thought it was a nice touch, the little bottoms, instead of having just the Allen screw, have a little top to them to balance against the lip of the saw. I showed previously new saw blade, that'll go in, and then obviously the safety blade cover, which I can't remember the official name. And I then picked up a method for hanging that cable. That'd be a big giant ass cable. That's cleaned out. That will be the good storage. Go around to the back of the unit. This was all redone. I don't know if it'll pick up in the light between the polish and the bead blasting to get rid of all the rust. Same thing with all the bolts. The nuts de-rusted but not polished. Bolts were. Again, you can see just the level of polish and cleaning. There is no sawdust in this motor right now, and you've heard it. Again, cleaned, de-rusted per se. I don't know if you can see inside if there's enough light, but you should be able to detect the fact that there's no rust there. All the rust has been removed where I could. And again, polish. And again, all the bolts redone, the wheel redone, cleaned, oiled, de-rusted. And that's about it. I don't know if you can see as I turn that upside down how clean it is in there. And now I'll put it together like I'm gonna have it. And this is how it'll rest in the garage. I'm waiting on some Johnson paste wax, which seems to be kind of unobtainium for whatever reason, to seal the table, keep a rust inhibitor. As I said, the next step will be adding the hobby board, the oak hobby board, to the fence, the rip fence. Saw blade will be, the cover will be mounted, or it will remain mounted. As you can see, I picked up a different miter hold down, little fancier. So now I have both one that does hold down from above, and then one that's just for a quick and easy cross cut. And then using the bottom for storage, blade carrier, and miscellaneous as well. And then the blade wrench and the cable are both hanging on the strap holder. I will add, it was nice to find this particular book online, or at least the owner's manuals. In fact, I found a couple different versions because some have better blow-ups of the exact parts. But this was a godsend in, taking things apart and seeing what how things worked, what the parts were called, the sizes, the individual dimensions, so that taking it apart, finding a replacement and or putting it back together was then that much easier. In fact, and there's the extension table assembly and how to align. So that will stay with the saw. So I wanted to point out this was a cool little looks like 50 years ago the use of I in front of a word, exacti-cut, as opposed to exact I cut. Actually, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. I'm going to guess exacti-cut instead of exact I cut, but who knows. But Craftsman was ahead of the game in terms of Apple by putting an I in front of a particular process or item. And the whole point of this is to give you, this is before the days of laser technology, so you knew as you lined up your board where the cut was going to go based on the saw blade. So obviously this is adjustable and not currently adjusted to this particular blade, but cleaned, polished, and refinished. So I thought that was a nice touch. And to add to nice touch, I thought the level of granularity with the ability to see where you're moving your rip fence. Again, if you look at miter saw, table saws today, you'll see much of this design reflected in many of the components, all the way down to detail level. And it's nice to see something actually done in steel, which now is all a form of polymer / plastic. All right, that's pretty much it for this effort. Now it's on to the next.